And the principles, Your Honor, are well articulated in the said guidelines, which are referenced to the court. And I'm not going to belabor, I'll be specific on which principles you're going to submit at length. Your Honor, the first principle that the court has to consider before meting out a penal sanction, either through a fine or imposing a custodial sentence, is on proportionality, Your Honor. And the court has to consider the gravity of the offense, taking into account the impact as well as the offender's level of responsibility, Your Honor. Your Honor, the accused persons, I must emphasize, stand before this court having been convicted of serious offenses that strike at the very foundation of public trust and integrity. Your Honor, principles that are not only essential to the fabric of our society, but also deeply enshrined in the Constitution of Kenya. Your Honor, Article 1 is very clear that the sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya. In this particular case, Your Honor, the sovereign power belongs to the people of Samburu, who voted in the first accused and whom, Your Honor, after having been voted and sworn in office, undertook an oath of affirmation, Your Honor. And it is very important for me to emphasize what that oath meant to the people of Samburu. Your Honor, the oath was very clear that the first accused person swore that he shall truly and diligently serve the people of Samburu and the Republic of Kenya in the office of the governor of Samburu County. He further affirmed that he shall diligently discharge his duties and perform functions in the said office, and will do justice to all in accordance with the Constitution and the laws of Kenya, without fear, favor, affection, or ill will. Your Honor, in regards to that first principle, Your Honor, the prosecution has already submitted that that particular oath that was taken under this Constitution has been breached. Your Honor, Article 10 of the Constitution, which stipulates the national values, emphasizes that leaders should ensure that they are accountable, transparent, create an enabling environment of equity, inclusivity, patriotism. Your Honor, with the conviction that was taken by the prosecution, Your Honor, the court should consider the two offenses that first accused was convicted of. One, conflict of interest, and two, the second count on unlawful acquisition of public property. Your Honor, Article 73 of the Constitution demonstrates or defines what conflict of interest is. Your Honor, your well-articulated judgment handled that. My emphasis to demonstrate that the personal gain that first accused obtained over and above being a state officer and a governor, he breached and violated Article 73, Article 73, subsection 2C. That required the state officer, Your Honor, to give selfless service based solely on the public interest demonstrated by, I'll go to number 2 because I don't want to take a lot of time. The declaration of any personal interest that may conflict with public duties. And therefore it is our submission that, Your Honor, the amounts that the first accused obtained and gained in the second count of unlawful acquisition of public property in the amounts of Kenya shillings 83 Kenya shillings 83,335,225, Your Honor. Your Honor, the remuneration and the salary of a governor, the gross salary is 957,000. That the people of Samburu, through the taxes that they have paid, remunerated the governor. Over and above that, Your Honor, the governor gained through that office and the abuse of that office the amounts that I have mentioned. So, Your Honor, you should take into consideration that these are acts and omissions that are very grave, serious. Your judgment, Your Honor, has actually made a determination that it was a corrupt act. Your Honor, the second principle that I want to submit on, that we should consider while meting out the sentence, Your Honor, the second principle that you should consider is on accountability and transparency, Your Honor. That I have already demonstrated in my earlier submissions, Your Honor. And Your Honor, I must highlight why accountability and transparency is important when the court is considering the sentence to mete out, Your Honor. Your Honor, Samburu County is a county, Your Honor, that the Commission of Revenue Allocation, in its reports, under table 4, Your Honor, when you retire, you're going to refer. Your Honor, this report that was done by CRA and made a determination in sequence the most marginalized counties in Kenya. Samburu County is number 6. It's number 6, Your Honor. It is a county, therefore, Your Honor, that qualifies to have allocation of funds under the... Yes. I give up. Your Honor, it qualifies under the Equalization Fund to get 1%. So that then, this particular location is supposed to address the issue of equity and inclusivity in the disparities between the social, economic disparities that run across the countries, Your Honor. And therefore, it is our submission, Your Honor, that the first accused person, there, over and above, ought, Your Honor, to have exercised prudent utilization of public funds. But, Your Honor, what happened? The first accused, Your Honor, mutilated those funds, gained interest in them. And therefore, Your Honor, this particular principle, as I've already articulated and stated in Article 10 of the Constitution, one of the national values, the court should consider this. Your Honor, the other principle is on inclusiveness. Your Honor, the reason why I'm saying we are here on behalf of the victims, that is the electorate of the people of Samburu, is both the offender and the victim should be involved, Your Honor, in the sentencing process. And that is where, Your Honor, the state, through the prosecution, we are making these submissions that the court should consider. Your Honor, the other principle that I want to submit on is on the respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. Your Honor, the court, Your Honor, is expected when it's retiring to look into the considerations, is supposed to ensure that the sentence that it meets out, all the safeguards that are provided for in law are met and addressed. Your Honor, it is not in contention that this trial complied with Article 25C. Yesterday, Your Honor, we further went ahead and allowed even the fifth accused person to access medical attention. And therefore, Your Honor, it demonstrates that all the parties, including the court, when you retire, you should consider and say that when you meet out this sentence, or sentences, Your Honor, that we shall be submitting on the particular penalty, this is one of the principles, Your Honor, that you should look into. Your Honor, the objective of why we are making our submissions here is that there has to be a purpose as to why then a sentence is meted out. We have to be accountable. The guidelines expect us to deliver. When we are done with our submissions, both the prosecution and the defense, Your Honor, one of the objectives that the court is supposed to consider and look into when you're meting out the sentence is one, deterrence. Your Honor, the purpose of a sentence is then supposed to make an inference that if individuals who are in leadership positions, who have been bestowed responsibilities under this Constitution, if they commit such acts and omissions that constitutes the offenses that are submitted on, in particular that offense of conflict of interest and an unlawful acquisition of property, a message should be sent that they should not think about it. Your Honor, number two, the other objective of the sentence is restorative justice. Your Honor, I've made submissions that Samburu County is one of the marginalized counties. And Your Honor, I'm arrived to the fact that the issue here is not the issue of the loss of funds. The issue here you're submitting is the breach, the betrayal, that when a leader is given a serious responsibility to ensure that the funds that we all as Kenyans, including everybody else who's in this court, are protected with the integrity that it requires, the sentence that we mete out should meet this particular objective, Your Honor. Your Honor, this also goes along with the other objective of community protection. And Your Honor, I have also submitted that the other objective, Your Honor, is over and about communities have to feel a sense of security, Your Honor. That they can sleep like babies when they know that the funds that have been bestowed upon the leaders, they are not going to dip their hands in the cookie jar. Your Honor, the other objective is retribution, to punish the offender for the criminal conduct in a just manner. Your Honor, I have submitted, Your Honor, and I do not want to belabor the amounts that the first accused, Your Honor, gained through private interests. And Your Honor, they are within your knowledge, Your Honor. And therefore, Your Honor, the other bit that I want to submit to submit my submissions on, Your Honor, is submissions on in relation to the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth accused persons. Your Honor, these were chief officers, Your Honor, who were given responsibilities in the various departments within the county of Samburu to ensure that while they're executing their performance, while they're executing their duties as public officers, Your Honor, they are also expected, Your Honor, to comply and abide by this Constitution. Your Honor, I associate the submissions that I've made in regards to Article 10, Article 73, that, Your Honor, they had the responsibility to ensure that their conduct when they are performing their duties, Your Honor, was not to aid, nor not, Your Honor, given that responsibility, to facilitate completion of an offense. Your Honor, again, this is very important. The gross salary of a CEC is in the amount of 422,526. You know, those are not private funds. Those are not private monies. Those are monies that, Your Honor, Kenyans have toiled in sweat. And what happens, Your Honor? The individuals who have been bestowed that responsibilities, they aided, and the prosecution proved beyond reasonable doubt the charges that, Your Honor, they were convicted of, the offense and the charge of abuse of office against all those accused persons. Your Honor, I do not want to belabor. The judgment is very clear on each count what they actually did to confer benefit to the first accused person, who was trading the name of Oryx Service Station. Your Honor, the 11th accused person, Your Honor, which I absolutely agreed with your judgment, Your Honor, that the prosecution proved that the 11th accused person was a ploy to hoodwink the constituents of Samburu, and went ahead and facilitated the commission of the heinous corruption offenses, Your Honor. Your Honor, therefore, the court, when it retires, consider which sentences to mete out, which my colleague will be coming in shortly to go count by count. I would want to submit that, Your Honor, corruption has to be made painful, Your Honor, and therefore you're submitting that under Section 2 of the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act of 2009, the court can, over and above meting out the sentence, can forfeit and Section 2, Your Honor, is very clear that 1, property or economic advantage derived or realized directly or indirectly as a result of or in connection of an offense, that is one condition that, Your Honor, you need to look into. Your Honor, it is not in dispute who is the owner of Oryx Service Station. Your Honor, that is the property, Your Honor, that was used to realize an economic advantage. And it is connected to the offenses that the prosecution has proved, beyond reasonable doubt, against the first accused person, the offense of conflict and unlawful acquisition. Your Honor, the second aspect that you need to look into is a proportional basis property into which any property derived or realized directly from the offense was later successfully intermingled, Your Honor. Your Honor, your judgment, and it is confirmed with very many pages, 143 pages. It was clear that there were funds that moved from Samburu County, moved into their accounts of Oryx Service Station. So these were processes of crime that were intermingled with that particular property. Your Honor, the third is in income, capital, or other economic gains or benefits derived or realized from such property from the time the offense was committed. Your Honor, I submitted earlier, and it's within the knowledge of everybody here from the judgment that you delivered yesterday. What is this income and the personal interest that was gained? I already know the amounts are there. And Your Honor, it is a submission that Oryx Service Station was an instrument of crime, ought to be forfeited as it was used unlawfully to acquire Kenya shillings 83,335,255. Your Honor, the provision of law that gives you the power is Section 389 of the Criminal Procedure Code. Sorry, 389A of the Criminal Procedure Code. Capsuling power. Your Honor, I do not want to cite the whole provision, but I just want to highlight. Because you preview.
Another prosecutor is going to speak.
Yes. I'm actually, this is
all in total 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
10 minutes more for the two of you.
All right.
Yeah.
So my colleague will have 10 minutes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Actually, on my 10 minutes, I'm finalizing. So when you retire, this section 389A, Your Honor, is very clear that if it appears to the court that the goods or things should be forfeited, it shall cause to be served on the person believed to be their owner. Notice that it will, at a specified time and place, order the goods or things to be forfeited unless good cause to the contrary is shown. Your Honor, I humbly submit that that has been laid bare from the judgment that you delivered yesterday. I have provided the legal basis that you can move, and that will be all for me. Thank you. Ask my question.
Yes, Your Honor. As I submit on... Yes, Your Honor. As I submit on the proportionate sentence to be meted, I'm alive to Article 51, which provides the convicted persons their Bill of Rights. I submit on count number 3. And I'll ask the court to look at section 48(1) of our second. 1A, Your Honor. We pray that this court to meet the maximum fine imposed. And to look at section 48(2)A, the prosecution demonstrated a benefit. That is with regard to count number 4. And we submit that the mandatory sentence under 48(1)A be meted, and the additional mandatory sentence under 48(1)B as read with 48(2)A, that double the benefit that was accrued be meted against the accused person. With regard to count 5 to count 12, count 5, Your Honor, against accused number 2, we implore the mandatory fine be meted and an additional fine twice the benefit, bringing a total of 10 million. Same goes to count number 6, count number 7, 8, and 9, Your Honor. As I finalize, Your Honor, I've been supplied with an authority by my colleague. That's the case of Kibuna and 2 others versus Republic. It's consolidated with several appeals, Your Honor. I just want to point out that, first of all, the High Court agreed with the sentence imposed, which in our view, we see them as very little, bearing the figures in question were merely 1 million. The figures under count 5 and 12, we pray that the sentence be proportionate to the figures involved. I will ask the court to look at the authority of Maingi versus Republic at paragraph 24. Maingi versus Republic. This authority I'm handing the court, Your Honor. Now this court has the mandate to look into the circumstances in totality and mete out the proportionate offense it may feel is justified. We do ask this court to consider that ruling when making its sentence. As I pen off, I want to leave
You said is that paragraph?
paragraph 24. As I donate my last few minutes to my colleague from EACC, Your Honor. Thank you.
Your Honor, as you prepare your sentencing, we urge you to implore Section 64 of the SECA.
Yes, one moment.
Your Honor, we urge you to implore Section 64 of the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act that states that a person who is convicted shall be disqualified from being elected or appointed to a public office for 10 years after the conviction. It is our humble submission that you will consider this section. That is all.
Your Honor, the prosecution have made elaborate submissions in terms of sentence. Your Honor, the duty and responsibility that now falls on us as counsel representing the accused, and I say the accused themselves, is to not just submit on sentencing but to mitigate. Your Honor, my request to the court is that in respect of mitigation, the three accused persons that I represent be allowed to put on record themselves their peculiar circumstances in respect of mitigation. And I then, Your Honor, will take up the substantive considerations of law in respect of sentencing.